Should a filmmaker sell their movie or license their movie?
Do you know the difference legally? Should I explain that?
Would you?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Okay, 99.9% of the time, it's a license. This is the legal terminology. Okay, I use the term sell very loosely, and a lot of people do, but the legal terminology of a sale means that you are actually giving up the copyright, the ownership of the movie. So it used to be called a negative pickup, where you would pick up the asset of the film. You're taking the asset, the ownership of the asset, which a lot of people refer to as the copyright, which is the ownership of the asset, and you're giving it to somebody else and they're paying you for it. So now you don't have any ownership of it anymore. That's a sale. It's super rare that a lot studios, when they sell their library, their catalog, their company, that's a sale, right? 99% of the time, you're doing a license where what you're saying is, here's my asset, you can borrow it for this period of time, for this amount of money, and then when that expires, you give it back to me. That's a license. And you're not really giving them the asset, you're letting them use that for their viewers.
So it's like renting a house versus selling it in some sense.
Yeah,
and so eventually the rights are going to revert back to the owner once your lease is up.
It's a little different. The rights never revert. I mean, all you're doing, you always own the movie on a license. You're just giving them, okay, there's rights. You're giving them the right to expose the movie to their customer base, or in some case, let's go with an extreme example where you're licensing it to, say, back then in the product side of the business, to a DVD, to a distribution company, and they're going to make DVDs. So you're giving them the right to put your movie on a DVD disc and sell it to, Walmart, who will sell it to the world, right? And that right, the consumer, when they buy it, will always get to own that right to watch your movie on that disc. But they don't have the right to sell it to anybody else, to replicate the disc, to air it in a movie theater. And they only have the right to own that and watch it when they want to watch it. That's the extent of the license agreement. And then when the period runs out from the distributor, they can't make any more DVDs. They give it back to you. Okay, now in the case of digital distribution, they have the right to, say, send out a streaming link or put it onto a streaming platform, or like an iTunes or Netflix or something like that for a certain period of time. And when it expires, they lose that right. But there's never a transfer of ownership, only in a sale. That's the difference between sale and license, is ownership. It speaks to ownership.
And before streaming services, did a lot of filmmakers used to sell their films? Let's say when the VHS market, or even remember video discs, were filmmakers selling or licensing? Was it the same thing back then?
Hopefully they were licensing. It's not a good practice to sell your rights, like to sell your asset. There's no reason you need to. I mean, generally, if somebody wants to own it, you can just make a long licensing deal, like 25 years or some crazy thing like that, or 50 years, or there are licensing deals, a lot of them called in perpetuity, meaning forever. So they actually never buy the asset, but they have the right to exploit it forever. So they might as well own it, but it's just easier to just do the license deal.
Can any movie get the attention of a distributor? Or are distributors only looking for certain kinds of movies?
It's not certain kinds of movies, it's at certain quality levels, certain budget levels. I mean, generally shorts aren't going to get the time of day from a distributor because it's hard to monetize them. Anything less than a feature is probably not going to be handled by a distributor because they don't have any place to sell it. They're just looking for stuff they can sell, something that is, commercially viable. So if they don't think it's commercially viable, they're not going to look at it. And generally, anything shorter than a feature is being tough to sell. There's not really a market for shorts. I mean, there's a viewing market for it, but not a consuming, not a purchasing market.
So when you say a certain quality, is a distributor wanting to know the budget of something before they'll even look at the trailer?
No, they want to know the quality. The budget is in some ways inconsequential. That could be some really, really talented filmmakers can make fantastic films on super low budgets. Some not so good filmmakers spend a fortune and make crappy films. It's about the quality of the film. Okay, everybody lies about the budget anyway, so you never know what's real. The only thing you know is you watch the movie and you say, hey, this looks really good. And who cares what they made it for? Honestly, who really cares? As long as it's entertaining.
So the two things people lie about in Hollywood, budget and their age.
I know, but the interesting thing is they go high on the budget and low on the age.